The dishes were still clattering. Someone had just told a joke. The smell of roasted chicken and someone's heavy cologne filled the air, and 20 people were laughing like the world was a perfectly comfortable place. I was sitting at the far end of the table, close enough to the kitchen that I could hear the timer still ticking on the oven. My fork was halfway to my mouth when Gerald lifted his glass. "Let's all be grateful," he said, loud enough for the whole room, "that we didn't turn out like some people at this table who are still figuring life out at their age." The laughter came fast, immediate, like everyone had been waiting for permission. I set my fork down slowly. I looked around the table. My mother, my half-siblings, cousins, aunts, people who had hugged me at funerals and birthdays. Every face was either laughing or looking away. Not one of them looked at me. I smiled, because I already knew what none of them did. My name is Celine. I'm 34 years old, and this is the story of the quietest, most complete victory of my life. I grew up in a blended family. My mom remarried Gerald when I was 12, and I remember the exact week things shifted. It wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, the way cold air comes under a door. Gerald's kids, his biological children, became the ones with futures worth talking about. Better schools, louder celebrations, their names said with a kind of pride that mine never was. I paid my own way through community college. I built a career from a secondhand laptop in a studio apartment with one window and very thin walls. I never once asked Gerald for a single thing. Not money, not a connection, not even a word of encouragement. I'm a freelance content writer. No title to announce at dinner. No husband's last name to add weight to mine. From the outside, my life looked quiet. Modest. Easy to overlook. And they overlooked it every single time. I wasn't rich or glamorous. I didn't have a husband's last name propping me up, but I had something they never thought to look for. Before I go further, I want to pause and speak directly to you. If you've ever sat at a table, a real one or a metaphorical one, and felt completely invisible to the people who were supposed to know you best, this story is for you. If your success doesn't look traditional, if it doesn't come with a corner office or a ring or a company car, and because of that, people have written you off, I see you. Have you ever been the one they laughed at while quietly building something they couldn't imagine? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to know. And if this kind of story speaks to something in your chest, subscribe. There are more where this came from. Share this video too. Let's find every person who has been underestimated at their own dinner table. Now, back to Gerald's birthday. It was his 60th. A big deal, apparently. His eldest son hosted it at his house. A nice place in the suburbs, the kind of house that impresses people who care about that sort of thing. About 20 people showed up. I was invited 4 days before. An afterthought. I drove 40 minutes and was seated at the end of the table closest to the kitchen. I could hear the dishwasher running during the salad course. Midway through dinner, Gerald decided to turn his toast into a group performance. Everyone would share a win, a recent achievement, something that showed life was going according to plan. It went around the table, a promotion, a house closing, a new contract. People beamed. Gerald nodded along like a king receiving tribute. Then it reached me. I opened my mouth. "We'll skip Celine," Gerald said, cutting right in, lifting his glass with a smile. "She'll just tell us about another blog nobody reads." The table laughed. Not all of them, but enough. Enough to make the silence of the ones who didn't feel loud and complicated. My mother laughed too, softly. Then she looked away. Gerald's daughter leaned forward. "Didn't you try to start a YouTube thing too? How many subscribers? Like 12. She grinned. More laughter. My face was burning. I could feel it in my ears. I excused myself to the bathroom, walked steadily, closed the door, and stood at the sink with my hands gripping the cold porcelain. My hands were shaking. Then my phone lit up. A notification I had been waiting on for weeks. I looked at the screen. I read it once, then again, and a slow, quiet smile crossed my face. I went back to the table and finished my dinner. What happened after that dinner was where things got uglier and colder in ways I hadn't expected. A week later, a cousin accidentally sent a screenshot to the wrong person. It landed in my messages. It was from a family group chat. I was not in that group chat, had never been added. It was used to plan holidays, coordinate gifts, discuss family decisions, things I was never consulted about, never informed of, never included in. And my name was in that chat, not kindly. They pitied me in a way that was almost worse than mockery, the kind of pity that assumes someone is too far gone to surprise you. I called my mom the next morning. I was hoping for an apology, something small, even just acknowledgement. "You know how Gerald is," she said. "You could have just laughed it off. Why do you always make things awkward?" That hit differently than anything Gerald had ever said, because she was my mother, and she chose comfort over truth, without even pausing to think about it. Then came the third thing. Gerald's son, Ryan, messaged me that same week. Friendly tone, casual opener. He was launching a new business and needed some marketing copy written. He used the phrase family support twice. He did not mention payment. I wrote back professionally. I quoted my standard rate. Within an hour, he had screenshotted my message and posted it to the family group chat with the caption, "She wants to charge us." Unbelievable. I found out through the same cousin. I felt the old familiar pull to shrink, to apologize, to send a follow-up message, explaining myself, softening the edges, making everyone comfortable again at my own expense. I didn't. Something had shifted in me, quietly and permanently. I stopped apologizing. I stopped explaining. I started documenting every slight, every exclusion, every screenshot, every moment. Because every time they laughed, every time they excluded me, they were writing the ending of their own story. They just didn't know it yet. Here's what they didn't know about the blog. Nobody reads. 2 years before that birthday dinner, I had started a personal essay platform under a pen name. No face attached, no real name. Just writing, honest and precise and completely unfiltered about family, ambition, rejection, and rebuilding. What they mocked as a hobby had grown into something I can barely describe without still feeling the quiet shock of it. Hundreds of thousands of followers, brands reaching out every month. A literary agent had contacted me about a book deal, and my most recent essay, published 3 weeks before Gerald's birthday, an essay about family rejection and what it teaches you about yourself, had gone quietly viral, shared tens of thousands of times in a single week. The notification that lit up my phone in that bathroom? A formal partnership offer from a major lifestyle brand. 5 figures, waiting for my signature. They laughed at a woman they invented in their heads. They had no idea who was actually sitting at that table. After the birthday dinner, my editor reached out. Her name is Dana. She's a veteran digital media director, one of the most respected people in independent publishing. And she has watched my platform grow from 200 followers to what it is now. She knows my pen name. She's one of maybe 3 people in my real life who does. She messaged me after the viral essay. "This one feels personal," she wrote. "Are you okay?" I told her everything. The dinner, the group chat, the rate screenshot, my mother's response. Dana didn't offer pity. That's one of the things I've always respected about her. She offered strategy. "If you're ready," she said, "we don't just post, we position, and we time it right." Meanwhile, the family had no idea what was coming. Gerald mentioned at a church event that his stepdaughter was still wandering. His son Ryan was building out a business pitch, and the more I heard about it, the more I recognized the language. Concepts I had shared casually in conversation over the years, ideas I had floated and never written down publicly because I had pitched them informally to people I trusted. He was using them. Not all of them, but enough. I noticed. I said nothing. Dana and I worked for 3 weeks. we finalized a major publishing partnership announcement, and I scheduled a post. I timed it for the next family event I knew was coming. The family organized a brunch to celebrate Ryan. He had landed a small feature in a regional business magazine, a half-page profile, the kind of thing that impresses people at brunches. Everyone was invited to toast him and celebrate. I was invited the night before. I wore something simple. I arrived on time, I was pleasant and quiet, and smiled at the right moments, and refilled my own mimosa when the bottle was nearby. I said very little. But that morning, at 10 o'clock, Dana and I had already pressed publish. The essay went live under my pen name. The title was The Dinner Table That Made Me. No real names, no identifying details, beyond the ones that couldn't be avoided. But every moment was vivid. The birthday dinner, the toast, the laughter, the bathroom, the shaking hands, the notification. All of it. Written the way only I could write it because I had lived every second of it. By noon, it was moving fast. Lifestyle publications were picking it up and sharing it across their platforms. The brand partnership announcement, my pen name, formally attached to a verified public-facing business deal, was running alongside it. In content creator circles, the pen name I had protected for 2 years was suddenly trending. I was sitting at the brunch eating a piece of fruit when someone across the table said, "Oh my gosh, has anyone seen this essay going around? It's incredible. This woman's family sounds absolutely awful." She started reading passages aloud. The room shifted, slowly at first. A few people glanced up from their phones, then more. Gerald's wife set down her fork. I watched her face as the words landed. She leaned toward Gerald and whispered, barely audible, but I was close enough to hear it. "Wait, that detail about the birthday dinner?" I set down my mimosa. The table had gone cold and silent. I said, "That's my work, that's my platform, and that's my deal." I slid my phone across the table. The screen showed the partnership announcement. My pen name, my real name, connected publicly for the first time. Gerald had no words. I watched him try to find some and come up empty. My mother stared at her plate. Ryan had gone pale. The kind of pale that happens when something you took without permission suddenly becomes very visible. I stood up. I smiled. "You asked how many subscribers I had," I said. "Do you want the real number?" I walked out. No speech, no tears, no grand declaration. The work had already said everything that needed to be said. That evening, my mother called 3 times. I let it ring. On the 4th call, I answered. I listened to her voice, careful and uncertain on the other end. Then I said, "I need time, Mom, and I need you to figure out whose side you've been on." I hung up gently. Ryan quietly restructured his business pitch in the weeks that followed. The familiar language disappeared. No apology came. I didn't expect one. I published one final note on my platform. Not about the brunch, not about any of them by name, just this. I used to believe silence was losing. Now I know silence was me building. They just couldn't hear the construction. I'm not bitter. I want to say that clearly. Bitterness would mean I'm still waiting for something from them. I'm not. I'm settled. I'm a woman who no longer needs a seat at a table that never truly welcomed her because I built my own. And now I want to talk to you. If you've ever poured yourself into something real, something you believed in, something that lived quietly in the background of your life while the people around you made jokes about it, then you know exactly what this felt like. You know, the specific pain of being dismissed by family, not strangers, family, the people who are supposed to be in your corner, no matter what. It is a particular kind of lonely. Have you ever been laughed at for something you were secretly pouring your heart into? I'm not asking rhetorically. I genuinely want to read your story. Drop it in the comments. Every single one. Subscribe to this channel. This is a community of people who are still building while the world isn't watching yet. You belong here. And click share. Help this story reach every person who has ever been mocked at their own table. One last thing before I go. What Celine did took a quiet, sustained kind of courage. Not the loud kind, not the kind that announces itself, the kind that keeps going in a studio apartment, on a secondhand laptop, building something real in the dark, when the people who love you have already decided you won't amount to much. That kind of courage deserves to be seen. So subscribe if you haven't. Become part of a community that actually sees you, where your progress counts even when nobody else is clapping yet. And tell me where you're watching from. Seriously. Drop your city, your country, whatever you're comfortable with in the comments. Because these stories travel far and wide, and every time I see a comment from somewhere I didn't expect, it reminds me why this matters. Share this video. Let it travel further. And let me know this story helped. Tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel.